The words hit him like a thunderclap. I just need a dad for the father-daughter dance. Logan Hart stopped mid-stride on the gravel path that cut across. Larkspur Green, a city park in the middle of Riverton, where dog walkers scrolled on phones and joggers pretended not to be winded. At the iron gate, a little girl stood very still, like a sparrow, trying not to spook the world. Her powder-pink dress sparkled faintly in the late sun, the kind of sparkle you only get from hope and a discount rack. Her hair was parted into 2 tight braids. Her shoes, scuffed and loyal, weren't made for big moments. In her small hands was a piece of cardboard with a careful message written in thick black marker. Need a dad for the father-daughter dance? Some letters drooped, as if tired of holding up that much longing. Nobody stopped. Not one person. Not the teenage boys practicing scooter tricks. Not the couple arguing about which rom-com 2 stream later Notting Hill is elite. Tyler, not the influencer live-streaming a quiet park walk while narrating breathlessly. But Logan did. The crunch of his polished shoes on the gravel seemed too loud as he stepped off the path. He was still in the Navy suit. Worn to meet a city councilman 2 hours earlier, the same suit he wore in 100 photos, where he grinned like a man who had it all figured out. He did not have it all figured out. Not even close. The little girl didn't flinch as he approached. She lifted her face. Tears slide-marked her cheeks, but her eyes were unnervingly steady. Kids' eyes that had learned early not to waste anyone's time. "What's your name, sweetheart?" His voice surprised him. It came out careful. "Mia," she whispered. Mia. He knelt, and the clean cedar smell of the park bench soaked into his lungs. "Why are you here alone?" "I live with my mom," she said, concentrating on keeping the signs straight. "She works at the diner forever. I asked if I could try just for today. She said I could come here because there are lots of people. Maybe someone would see me." Logan swallowed. "You've never met your dad." She shook her head once. "Mama says he left before I could say real words." He didn't know he was crying until Mia's eyes shifted in surprise. She reached out and touched the sleeve of his suit, a kid's check-in. "You okay, mister?" "No," he said, honesty landing like a loose brick. "But I will be. I grew up without a dad, too." The truth cracked something inside him, quietly, mercilessly. And then, without a prepared speech, without a calculation about angles and optics, he pulled her into his arms. She was so light he could have sworn grief had been making him heavy his whole life, and he just didn't notice. She trembled. He didn't tell her not to cry. He whispered, "You're not alone. Not right now. Not anymore." Across the park, multiple heads lifted. A couple of phones came out. A woman wheeled her stroller closer and said, "Is that Logan Hart?" The guy with her said, "That's him. It's the developer, Mr. Sustainable Skyline himself." Someone else added, "I heard he's launching a new foundation. PR move." Another person, Kinder said, "Or maybe he's just being human." Logan didn't hear any of it. He only heard Mia's breath hitch against his jacket. She asked, "You'll go to the dance with me?" "Yes," he said, and he meant it with a clean, terrifying clarity. "I'd be honored." And, just like that, the man who could sign a document and move millions of dollars became a man who was about to show up for one little girl with braids and brave shoes. That night, the hotel suite felt like a stage set after the show. Empty chairs, cooling air, a city view pretending to be important. Logan sat on the edge of the king bed and stared at a photo he kept tucked inside his wallet. The edges had turned to felt years ago. A little girl, gap-toothed and ecstatic, beamed in a tutu beside a pair of tiny ballet slippers. The caption scribbled on the back in blue ink. "Rory, age 6. Best audience, Daddy, if he shows." He hadn't. A last-minute investor dinner, taxi stuck behind a parade, 1,000 paper cuts of excuses. The accident 2 months later, the grief wasn't sharp anymore. It was a weather system that lived inside his bones. But today, it had thundered. He opened his laptop and typed, "Monroe, Elementary Father-Daughter Dance Riverton." The event page blossomed on the screen this Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. Open to K5. Ticket required. Chaperone must be legal, guardian, or parent. His stomach sank. He wasn't Mia's legal anything. What would happen if they said no? She stood there in her sparkly dress and silver ribbon, and the grown-up at the door shook their head. He closed the laptop too hard and listened to the echo bounce off the glass. Morning came like an apology. Logan didn't sleep so much as lose consciousness for a while. By 10, he was back at Larkspur Green, scanning benches, pathways, wishful corners, until the school nurse Dee met once at a charity run, stepped into his line of sight as if she'd been expecting him. "Looking for Mia?" Nurse Phoebe said, like she'd known his name all her life. "Her mom's at Beacon Diner. Mia hangs at the front booth with crayons when the lunch rush isn't wild." Beacon Diner looked exactly like what the word town should smell like. Coffee, bacon, a hint of lemon cleaner, and 50 stories you could catch if you sat still long enough. Behind the counter, a woman with a tired ponytail and a patient face, the kind bus tables have loved for decades. Poured refills and called everybody hun. Mia sat by the window, coloring a dragon with blue scales and golden eyes. She saw Logan, and her whole face turned sunrise. "You came," she said. "I promised." Her mother drew near cautiously, an instinctive protector measuring danger and miracles with the same yardstick. "Can I help you, Logan?" he said, and kept his voice simple. "I met your daughter yesterday. She asked if I'd take her to the father-daughter dance." "The father-daughter dance?" The smile that always stood near her mouth retreated to watch. "I'm Amber, and I'm not ungrateful. But, sir, we don't know you." "I understand," he said. "I grew up without a dad, saw your daughter, and something old and broken in me woke up. I don't want anything from her or from you. Just want to show up one night and dance." Amber folded her arms. Heartedness was an old coat. She wore it like it still fit. "The school's strict about chaperones." "I'll talk to the principal," Logan said. "Do whatever background check you want, whatever makes it safe." Amber studied him for a full, calm 10 seconds. "I'll ask Principal Ward. She actually cares. I'll cover the ticket, the shoes, whatever she needs. It's not about money, Mr. Hart." "I know," he whispered. "I know." Before he left, Mia grabbed his hand. "Going to wear my sparkly dress." It's the one with the silver sash. "I'll wear my best suit," he said. "Deal." She gave him a solemn, thrilled nod. Pinky swear level. He stepped outside into a sun that felt honest and a wind that stole all his performative polish. For the first time in years, he felt like the day wasn't something he had to wrestle to the ground. It was something he might mercy. The hallway outside Principal Ward's office at Monroe Elementary smelled like crayons, photocopies, and gum the custodian would complain about later. Children laughed somewhere. Laughter is always somewhere in an elementary school. It does not wait for permission. At 10:15 on the dot, the receptionist waved him through. Principal Lydia Ward stood when he entered, tall, steady, a scar on her hand shaped like a comma. A smile that looked like she'd practiced it on kids who needed to know where home was. She shook Logan's hand like a person who could handle a storm and start a bake sale at the same time. So she said, "I hear you're causing gentle chaos in our small city." "I'm trying to cause a very specific kind of chaos," he said, managing a nervous half-grin. "It's the good kind." He told her about the sign, about Mia, about his own father-shaped absence. He did not tell her about the photo in his wallet. Some stories ask you to be still with them a while longer. Ward listened like it mattered. Then she folded her hands. "We have policies, but we also have children. Children are bigger than policies." He exhaled shakily. "So there's a chance. There's a process." She slid a form across the desk. "Volunteer clearance. Background check. A quick meeting with our counselor to align expectations. And you will attend side by side with a staff member. Call it an extra layer of care. Yes, anything." He filled the first line without looking up. "The way you sign your name when the thing you want isn't money or influence, but something as simple as a kid not feeling like an exception." Ward watched him quietly. "You know, Mia told her teacher this morning, I think I found someone who sees me." Logan's pen stilled. "Then I'm already the luckiest man in the building." "Mr. Hart," Principal Ward said as he stood to leave, "in my experience, showing up is the bravest thing you can do. But it's also the thing everybody will think they understand and almost nobody does. Be ready. For what? For people who don't know you to have loud opinions about you." He nodded. I've had a lifetime of those. Not like this, she said gently. Because now it's about a child. The town didn't exactly split in two, but if you'd stood at the edge of the Riverton Farmers Market that afternoon, you could have watched the fault lines. Some people looked at Logan and saw an opportunist who wore contrition as an accessory. Others saw a man doing the very thing we keep asking of each other. For the love of God, be kind. At Beacon Diner, where opinions get strong after the second cup, a janitor in a neon yellow work shirt muttered as Logan came in to drop off Mia S. Repaired silver shoes. Can't buy everything. Not even a daughter. Logan offered a careful nod. Good afternoon. Amber slid him a look sorry about the world and pushed a milkshake toward him that he hadn't ordered. Vanilla, she said. Mia's favorite. Practice. He took a sip and tasted all the dumb, ordinary sweetness he'd traded away for rooftop bars and urgent mergers. He had never hated the word urgent more than he did now. Back at his hotel, the calls started. First from his assistant Jules, who was brilliant and patient and had kept Logan's life from unraveling in public more than once. 2 reporters asked for a comment. You want to know? He said. I want to remain very stupidly quiet. Logan, I want to be clear. I support this. But our funders? Then our funders can jump into the nice cold river and cool off. Copy that, she said dryly. Should I pack you floaties? Or are we road-dogging river consequences? He laughed despite the knot in his throat. You're the only person who can make me laugh right now. Then the fee just doubled. By morning. Grainy. Video of the moment in the park had 1.7 million views. The caption read, When a little girl asks for a dad at the park and a stranger says yes. The first 1,000 comments were pure tenderness. Then the algorithms arrived, the bots, the bored cynicism that passes for intelligence online. The consensus swung loosely like a chandelier in a storm. This is beautiful. This is sus. This is humanity. This is a stunt. This is why we cry. This is why we can't have nice things. He didn't look. Deleted apps. He did not delete the text thread where Mia had sent him for photos of dragons she was auditioning for a picture she wanted to give him. Pick your fighter, lol. He hearted each one and typed all of them. Always. All of them. The afternoon of the dance. Logan waited outside the gym that had been transformed into a galaxy of paper lanterns, streamers, and a backdrop that read "Reach for the Moon" in bubbly cursive. The custodian Mr. Man adjusted a ladder and asked if the balloon should go on the left. Back wall, Mia said, boss quiet, when she and Amber and Principal Ward arrived. People want pictures before they sweat. Ward hid her smile. Our girl has impeccable event sense. But the board members had arrived too. Mr. Graff with his shoe-polish confidence and Ms. Harmon, who could set a room to simmer by just raising an eyebrow. Harmon's voice was measured. We've had concerns from parents. This admittedly is an unprecedented situation for a family-themed event. Unprecedented? Ward repeated flatly, like the word had become a cudgel in her line of work. Like every time we have to choose the kid in front of us over a rule that forgot what it was for, Graff said. Mr. Hart, you understand the optics here? Yes, Logan said. I understand that a child asked if I'd show up, and I said yes. Harmon sighed, as if that wasn't the correct answer. We'll allow it, she said finally, after Ward said a few gentle, unrepeatable things that sounded like justice, with a side of plausible deniability. On the condition that you remain beside Principal Ward or Ms. Dalton at all times, and if any parent expresses discomfort, we reserve the right to ask you to step aside. If that happens, Logan said, I'll be the one to tell Mia. I'll take that hit, not you. Fair, Ward said softly, like it meant more than he knew. And then Mia walked in, dressed silver tulle, ribbons, mirror bright, shiz. The same scuffed pair, now repaired with care. Tiara, plastic, perfect. Confidence, small but stubborn. She spotted him and ran. You came, she whispered, as if the last 12 hours had been a lifetime, I promised, he said. You look like a king. Only if you're the boss. I am. I know. They stepped into the gym. The music was a throwback ballad that wanted to be corny and was gloriously. For a moment, the room went still. People watched, first out of suspicion, then out of the tender remembering of what it felt like to be 7 with a hand in yours. A tall dad with a jaw built for baseball scowled. You don't belong here. he said under his breath as they passed. Logan kept his voice gentle. I know. But I'm here. Not her dad. Not by blood. By choice. That's not how it works. Logan nodded at Mia, who looked up with a question like a bird in her eyes. He just doesn't understand yet, Logan told her. From across the room, Ms. Dalton, third-grade teacher, cardigan warrior, started clapping. Ward joined. A few parents followed the hesitant courage of the decent. The applause spread like a rumor you want to believe. The scowling dad softened and looked at his own daughter, who tugged his sleeve with a look that said, Hey, learn something. Logan and Mia started to dance. It wasn't good. She giggled every time he tried to twirl, and he bumped into another pair and said, I'm so sorry the way you do at the grocery store when your cart makes new enemies. But he had a rhythm nobody could teach. A deliberate, present sway. It said, I'm here now. Now again, now again. Amber watched from the edge, hands clasped. Her eyes shone with all the things you feel when a door opens you didn't know was there. Ward stood beside her, breathing in the clean relief of a right decision. Halfway through the song, a local reporter's flash popped. Logan flinched, then put his palm lightly against Mia's cheek to block the light. The photo looked like a man protecting something sacred and a kid resting her whole weight in that protection. Online, someone would caption it. It's giving. Safety, comments would say. If you're crying, mind your business, me. He didn't know any of that yet. He just knew the room smelled like vanilla punch and floor polish and something he'd never had in a boardroom. The hum of belonging. After, as they headed toward the coat hooks, the scowling dad approached again. Hey, he said, clearing his throat. My kid just asked me why more dads don't dance like that. I told her I didn't know. He stuck out a hand. Wes. Logan. They shook. I was wrong, Wes said, gruff and quiet. I've been wrong longer, Logan said. Wes chuckled. You got the moves of a brave man, or a man with no shame. Same thing sometimes. They grinned like idiots. It felt like grace. The next week, the national business blogs rotated headlines like bits on a late-night show. Billionaire redeems self at elementary dance. If PR stunts could hug, what is fatherhood even? Anopped by a guy who has never met a child, apparently. The local paper printed the photo above the fold with a headline that made the town proud. Riverton shows up. On Tuesday morning, Logan walked into Monroe Elementary to drop off an envelope. Inside were vouchers for the library's books for every kid drive, anonymously funded. He'd printed them on cheap paper because fancy ribbon donations make people feel like props. On his way out, he saw Mia through a classroom window. She was drawing a dragon on wide-ruled paper, tongue just peeking out in concentration. She looked up. Through the glass, their eyes met. She didn't wave, just smiled, like they had a secret. It wasn't a secret. It was a promise. By Thursday, the email arrived from the board of the Heart Initiative the foundation Logan had built to make sure housing projects didn't.
8. Teat. 2. Neighborhoods alive.
Given current media chatter, the board chair wrote, we advise distance from this. Narrative, donors are spooked. Optics are unstable. Reputation is a fragile asset. Logan stared at the screen for a long time. Then he typed 2 sentences that cracked his whole life open like ice on a river. If reputation requires me to walk away from a child, then I am uninterested in that definition. Please consider this my notice. I will be restructuring the Heart Initiative immediately. He hit send before he could remember all the ways people have always conditioned their love. He called Amber. They want me to step back. I told them no. On the other end, a breath. It's not just them, she said softly. Parents, people, the comments online. They're wondering what you want. You and Mia too never wonder again if I'll show up. You sure? I've never been more sure of anything that didn't start with a kid and a cardboard sign. Then come by, Amber said. We'll talk. And I made chicken and dumplings, Mama's recipe. 20-minute patience, 4-hour comfort. He laughed, a watery, grateful laugh. I'm on my way. The house was small and square and brave, paint chipped at the edges. But someone had taken time to plant marigolds in a chipped planter by the steps. A dog barked down the block. Somewhere a teenager practiced drums badly and sincerely. Inside, the kitchen smelled like a Sunday that finally forgave you. They ate quietly. Sometimes the best conversations sit between sentences. When Mia went to brush her teeth, Amber poured tea and said, "I don't have much trust left in the world." "Me either," he said. "You had plenty of it, though." "I had people's admiration," he corrected. "That's not the same thing." She watched him for a moment like a person reading a weather forecast in a language that had tricked her before. "Why her?" Amber asked. "Why Mia?" "Because she asked," he said simply. "'Cause she reminds me that forgiveness sounds like a kid believing you, even when you shouldn't be believed yet. 'Cause nobody should have to hold up a sign for love." Amber opened a drawer and took out a little velvet pouch. Inside was a small silver pendant, heart-shaped, worn smooth by worry and hope. On the back, engraved, "Keep going. My mother gave me this when Mia was born," she said. "Told me to wear it when I felt like quitting. You keep it a while. I think you're going to need it." He closed his hand around it like a promise that warmed. "Thank you," he said, and meant the thank you that isn't just politeness, but a tiny vow to be worthy. On his drive back to the hotel, he touched the pendant at every stoplight like a rosary of second chances. 2 days later, in the middle of the school's monthly assembly, Ms. Dalton introduced a new tradition: student stories. "We believe our kids should get to speak their truth out loud," she said, dabbing at the corner of one eye like she'd practiced to do it casually and failed. "So we're starting with an author who already taught all of us something." Mia walked to the mic, clutching 4 sheets of stapled paper protected in a plastic sleeve. Her voice, soft, serious, secret superhero, filled the room. "My story is called Sir Dragon and the Window That Stayed On. It's about a dragon who used to breathe fire to scare people away, but really he was just trying not to cry. He flew across a big city and then a small one and found a castle that had only one window lit up. Inside, a girl felt like no one ever knocked on her door. The dragon didn't know the dance steps, but he learned them anyway." Kids laughed. Teachers did the gentle inhale adults do when a child says something true. He couldn't fix the whole castle, Mia read, but he promised to guard that one window. And the girl believed him because he didn't blink when it was hard. The end. For now, silence. Then an ovation that started in the second row with a kid in light-up sneakers and rolled like kindness. Outside after, there were parents who wanted to shake Logan's hand and one who didn't. And 2 reporters who asked for a comment, and 1 micro-influencer who asked if he could do a wholesome TikTok. Logan said no to all of them, and yes to the kid with light-up sneakers who wanted to know if dragons have allergies. "They do," Logan said gravely. "It's mostly glitter, sometimes cilantro." "Same," the kid said. A week later, in a conference room at City Hall that had watched 1,000 boring decisions, the school board met to discuss the matter. People packed the room, the doorways, the hallway. Hashtag swam in the air like gnats. Hashtag let Mia dance. Hashtag show up. Hashtag RIVERTON strong. A guy in the back with a podcast voice whispered, "This is a vibe and a half." Mr. Graff spoke first, leaning hard on phrases like precedent and parental rights and slippery slope. Ms. Harmon added it. "It's not that we re against kindness the way people say, 'I'm not a monster' right before a monstrous thought arrives." Ward, steady as a lighthouse, stood. "We keep asking for men to show up," a little girl asked. A man came. We made it safe, made it supervised. And a child felt like the world changed shape around her. Finally, for once, in her favor. "Feelings aren't policies," Graff said. "Policies are supposed to protect feelings," Ward said. "Specifically the ones inside kids who didn't ask to be the lesson plan for adults who forgot what protection is for." Murmurs, agreement, discomfort, the sound people make when their minds change 1 click at a time. Logan stood when Ward nodded to him. He didn't bring notes. He brought his hands open. "When I was 8, he said, I waited on a sidewalk for someone who didn't come. I learned to pretend that didn't matter. It mattered. It's still a bruise that shows up in pictures sometimes. I can't fix my past. But I can make sure that on one Saturday, in one gym, one kid didn't have to stand in that bruise alone." He paused. The room did too. "If this becomes bigger than a dance, good. Let's make something that lasts. Let us build a mentorship program. So no kid ever has to hold up a sign without backup. Let us fund the library so the dragons in there teach us how to be brave in daylight. If you think this is a stunt, come watch me show up when there are no cameras and nothing to trend. If you think I'm here for anything but that kid's window, You're going to be bored and disappointed because I intend to be relentlessly ordinary about this. Silence, then applause like a wave slapping rock. Ward's mouth quirked. Harmon didn't clap. Graff clapped twice, slow, as if his hands had their own conscience and were trying to wake his head. The board didn't vote that night. They postponed to consider concerns. Ward rolled her eyes in a way that made 3 teachers in the back snort laugh and cover it with coughs. In the parking lot, Amber rested a hand on Logan's arm. You talk like a person who used to be important and decided to be useful. Those are the 2 genders, he deadpanned. She laughed and leaned her head on his shoulder for a single second. He felt it for an hour. It didn't go back to Chicago. The skyline that once felt like a mirror now felt like someone else's monologue. Extended the hotel reservation, then didn't use it. Amber handed him an extra key to the back door, like it was a test and a gift. Just in case, she said. He slipped it onto his keyring beside the one that opened a penthouse, whose echo only ever sounded like failure. He cooked badly at Thanksgiving. Ambitious learned to braid hair via a YouTube tutorial hosted by a dad with 3 daughters, an unlimited grace over-under. Il-Runder, you got this, Poseidon. Messed it up spectacularly. Mia awarded points for effort and bought him a neon scrunchie as a participation ribbon. They walked the Riverton Riverwalk on Saturdays, bought kettle corn from a vendor who insisted on slipping extra into Mia. S-bag when she thought nobody saw and practiced a secret handshake that required elbow taps, a dinosaur roar, and a whispered, "We got us." Teenagers filmed them and mouthed wholesome. A guy on a bench asked Logan without looking up from his crossword. "This for real?" Logan answered. "It is." The guy nodded like that was good enough to sit with. When the fire alarm at Monroe's old library wing screamed one noon, smoke blooming out of vents like dark confetti, Logan arrived with bottled water, work gloves, and a plan. He coordinated with the fire chief and the city inspector, and then got out of the way because people who have always carried communities don't. Need a man in a suit or jeans, telling them how. The wiring was bad. The damage was worse. The smell of char clung to the school's edges like grief. That night, social media did what it always does, screamed, accused, demanded. Logan didn't post. He made calls. By morning, trucks from a shuttered bookstore and a local warehouse rumbled up with donated shelves and boxes labeled Kids Board books and Ya Dragons and Feelings the Good Stuff. Parents brought picture books with their children's names scrawled in pencil on the title pages. "They're yours now," one kid told another solemnly. "Take care of Hobbs." 2 weeks later, the library reopened with more books than it had in 15 years. The ribbon cutting was a shoestring, a fair construction paper, safety scissors, a dull knife someone had to saw with for a comical 30 seconds, until Mr. Manny produced the right tool like a magician. Mia cut the ribbon. Logan cried and pretended he had allergies to glitter. The next afternoon, under an elm that looked very proud of its own shade, Mia tugged his sleeve.
Ed.
He looked at her, the word hitting him with a soft violence. "Yeah, bug. When are you going to adopt me for real?" He didn't answer immediately, not because he didn't know, but because he knew too hard to say it easy. He knelt so they were eye level. "How do you feel about starting this month?" She blinked, then beamed so big the sun changed its schedule to watch. "Yes," she said, and threw her arms around his neck. "Yes, yes, yes." Amber signed the papers with hands that shook just a little. Logan signed with a steadiness he had Dan T. felt. Since he was a boy writing his name for the first time on a library card, Mia watched like she was witnessing a spell that required ink. They clinked glasses of sparkling apple juice. And Amber made a cake that leaned to the left and somehow tasted like every hope they'd all been too tired to say out loud. The adoption hearing at the Riverton courthouse was short, ordinary, holy. Judge Mira Santos, whose gray hair curled like wisdom around her face, asked questions she'd asked 1,000 times, and then some she hadn't. "What does being a father mean to you, Mr. Hart?" "Showing up," he said, saying "I'm here," and then proving it in the boring ways. "And you, Ms. Mia?" Mia stood on tiptoes to reach the mic. "It means he keeps the window lit." In the gallery, Ward dabbed her eyes. Mr. Manny pretended there was dust. Wes the dad elbowed another dad like he'd known Logan forever. Amber held her breath and then remembered how, when the gavel fell, it sounded like a new roof being nailed down. It sounded like home. On the courthouse steps, a small crowd cheered. Someone had made a sign that read, "Welcome home, Mia Grace Hart." The G had been added later in a different marker. A small mistake turned into an intentional flourish. That's how family works, mostly. A week later, the Riverton Gazette ran a feature. From high-rise to hand-to-hold. The day, Riverton grew bigger. The quote at the bottom was Mia's. In a kid font they made on Canva because the layout designer was 23 and perfect. Being a daughter docent mean you have the same last name. It means someone shows up again and again and says, "You matter." Comments turned off not because they feared the worst, but because they wanted to keep the best. The Anna Grace Project announced itself with no gala, no foie gras, no step and repeat. Just an open house with paper plates, lemonade, and a sign-up sheet for mentors. "You want to help?" Logan said in his very not a CEO voice. "Pair up with a kid who needs someone to clap at the weird little Tuesday events life gives us. Read with them. Teach them to cook something that burns the first time. Sit in hard chairs at school plays and make your face the sun when they look for you." Attendance went from 30 to 100 in 3 months. Mia cut the red ribbon there, too, because she was now, apparently, Riverton's chief ribbon officer Crow. She took the job seriously. She liked snacks. They painted a mural on the community room wall, kids and adults, side-by-side colors, under fingernails for days. It showed a dragon perched protectively over a small house with one window lit. Above it, in block letters, "Keep the window lit." A man in a suit from a fancy foundation in Chicago visited to explore partnership opportunities. When he said scale, Ward handed him a paintbrush and said, "Start with blue." He left with paint on his loafers and something to think about. At the second school board meeting of the year, amid a tangle of concerns about budgets and curriculum and a petition to replace turquoise with teal in the art room inventory, it was a whole thing. Ms. Harmon asked if the mentorship funds were diverting resources from core academics. Logan stood and said, "We set up an endowment for teacher salaries and library materials, so the mentorship program is additive, not extractive. Also, Ms. Harmon, I brought you a spreadsheet that will make your heart sing a polite song." Ms. Harmon, who loved a spreadsheet like some people love their firstborn, tried very hard not to look delighted. She failed admirably. The motion passed unanimously. In the back, Wes whispered, "Plot twist," and high-fived Mr. Manny for no reason beyond joy. Not everything was soft. People still judged, because that is a habit that is hard to quit. Rumors flared and fizzled. A parent wrote an anonymous letter to the editor asking if outside influence was changing our town's character. A teenager made a TikTok mocking Logan's dance moves accurate, and then 2 days later posted another one. "Okay, but like, he is the only adult who remembered my poetry open mic and sat in the front row and didn't look at his phone once." The second video got 5 times the views. The kid pinned it. A winter storm snapped through town, cutting power on the night of the Winter Lights Festival. For 10 seconds, darkness erased the edges of faces. Logan felt a small hand find his in the dark. "That you, Dad?" Mia asked. "It's me," he said. Always. When the lights hissed back to life, a cheer went up, improvised, and relieved. Somebody started singing again, not because traditions demand it, but because voices needed to be louder than the wind.
Oh.
They kept showing up. On River Festival Day, Logan capsized a canoe in the shallow part of Riverton Creek and emerged looking like a raccoon who made peace with his decisions. Kids screamed laughing. Amber handed him a towel with the affection particular to someone who has decided to love you at your wettest. Mia said, "You looked like a startled otter for a second." And he said, "That's my default setting," she said. "It's a serve, because slang is a forever river." On a soft spring evening, the community garden held story time. Mia read her poem, revised, ruthlessly, and then brought out 2 hand puppets. She'd made a tiny dragon and a small girl with yarn braids.
I too.
Dozen toddlers watched like PBS had come to life. A mom whispered to Logan, "She's going to run this town someday?" He whispered back, "Maybe she already does." Summer arrived, and with it, the heat that makes everything taste like watermelon. The mentorship program posted its first-year results, attendance up, behavior incidents down, reading scores nudging in the right direction. A kid named Eli wrote in his self-evaluation. Because of my mentor, I started reading before bed again. I feel important. The line made Logan sit down carefully, like the air had just tipped. He started a scholarship fund for local students who wanted to study the slow arts, teaching, social work, public interest, law, community planning. HVAC. Infrastructure is love, he said in a speech that accidentally went mildly viral because apparently that sentence was the right kind of nerdy. A plumber named Steph said into the mic during Q&A, "Facts," and the crowd cheered. Logan found himself playing less savior and more backstop. He carried ladders and set up folding chairs and learned to fix the temperamental coffee maker at the community center. It's giving attitude. He also learned exactly 2 decent jokes, appropriate for 3rd grade lunch duty. He repeated them like classics. Kids indulged him like elders who get to tell the same story because love is a rerun. On a Tuesday that tasted like lemonade and sawdust, Logan looked out over the community center's small conference room and saw parents, teachers, mentors, kids, and a future gathered like it was easy. He cleared his throat and said, 10 chapters ago, a little girl held up a sign. She asked for a dad for one night. We keep telling people to ask for help. She did. She shouldn't have had to, but she did. And because she did, we're all here. So I want to say something to every kid in this room. You're not an exception. You're the reason. He looked at Mia, who sat beside Amber at a folding table littered with markers and snack wrappers. She raised 2 thumbs, then turned them sideways, then pointed them at him like finger guns, then cringed at herself and said, "Delete that." Laughter softened the room's edges. On the way home, passing the garden and the river and the corner where the kettle corn guy waved like a lighthouse, Amber reached for his hand. "You did it," she said. "We did it," he replied. From the back seat, Mia piped up. "I wrote a new ending for the dragon story. Want to hear it?" "Yes," they said in unison. She read from her notebook. The dragon didn't stop flying around the castle just because the window was lit. He stayed. He learned where the creaky floorboard was and which walls needed patching and how to fix the fence with his hands and how to make pancakes that were wrong the first 5 times, but awesome the 6th. He stopped breathing fire unless it was for making s'mores. "What about when dragons get sad?" Amber asked softly. Mia thought. "And we all take turns keeping the window lit until it passes." Nobody spoke for a block and a half, because sometimes kids hand you a theology, and the only acceptable response is to let it ring. The night before 4th grade, Logan stood at the stove, flipping pancakes for dinner, because life is a circle, and breakfast for dinner is its truest form. Amber slid packed lunches into the fridge. Mia arranged her backpack with charm-level precision and announced that her first day outfit was giving CEO, because she had invented a job for herself: event chair, program co-creator, community heartbeat. The next morning, at the front steps of Monroe Elementary, parents and kids clumped into clusters of anticipation. Teachers called welcome like stage managers. Ward stood near the front door like a bouncer who lets everyone in. Mia hugged Logan tight, then whispered, "Hey, Dad. If we ever run out of dragons," she said, "we'll make more." "We will," he said. "Absolutely will." She ran inside. He watched her braids swing like punctuation at the end of a beautiful sentence. He wasn't a billionaire anymore. He'd stepped away, sold shares, sold buildings, bought time. The headlines had moved on because they always do. The people who stayed didn't do it because there were cameras. They stayed because a girl held up a sign one day and a man answered. And it turned out the answer was not just "I'll dance, but I'll be here when the music stops." That fall, when the leaves turned Riverton gold and the river threw back the sky like it wanted to make the world feel generous, the father-daughter dance came around again. Logan didn't just attend. He organized. He built Father for a night pairing, background-checked volunteers with kids who didn't have someone to go with, grandpas, uncles, older brothers, coaches, teachers, neighbors. The application packet was thorough. So was the training, boundaries, expectations, care. The gym was a galaxy again, but this time the stairs held no suspicion, only gratitude. Mia wore the same tiara because tradition is a love language. She took Logan's hand. "May I have this dance?" Ridiculous and regal. "You may," he said, ridiculous and reverent. They swayed, turning slowly under paper stars. A little boy stood on the edge, clutching a cupcake like a flotation device. Mia noticed him and slipped away to kneel by his side. "Hey," she said. "I used to stand there too. Want to learn a dance?" The boy nodded, like it cost money to move his head. "I don't know how," he whispered. "Me neither once," Mia said. "But someone taught me. Come on." Logan watched them, his daughter, teaching someone else the steps. Amber stepped beside him, took his hand and squeezed. "You see that?" "I do," he said, voice thick. "That's the whole point." On the makeshift stage at the end of the night, Ward tapped the mic. "Tonight we celebrated family," she said. "Not the narrow kind, the true kind." She looked at Mia, "And we celebrate those who kept the window lit for all of us." Applause. The good kind. Not loud, deep, outside, under a sky that had learned how to be a chandelier. Mia tugged Logan's sleeve. "Dad, yeah, bug? Next year. Can I plan the whole thing?"
Next year,
he said, smiling. "You're in charge?" She grinned. Bet. They didn't need music, but the wind gave them a little anyway. They danced on the sidewalk 2 shadows, then 3 when Amber joined. Then 4 when Wes walked by and pretended he didn't cry. Then 5 when Mr. Manny did a suspiciously smooth shuffle. Somebody filmed it. Nobody posted it. Some things you keep. A year turned. Headlines changed their minds about other things. The mural at the community center faded a bit and got touched up by hands that knew the original lines by heart. The garden survived a hot summer because people who de-learned to show up for each other also knew how to carry a watering can. The library's new wing buzzed in the afternoons with the hush of kids reading, which is the loudest quiet in the world. Logan learned to live in the boring middle of good days. He learned where the store kept the cheap shampoo. He learned to make a meatloaf that wasn't a cry for help. He learned to arrive 5 minutes early on purpose. He learned again and again that being a dad is an endless loop of small repairs and private victories and 1,000 quiet "I love yous" that sound like "text me when you get there." He learned that the softest power is consistency. On the anniversary of the park day, Mia asked if they could visit Larkspur Green. She wore her tiara, even though she had outgrown it like a crown that refused to keep up. They stood at the gate where the sparkle of her dress had once competed with the sun. Someone had hung a small plaque on the fence, graffiti-ished, a little crooked, perfect. "Keep the window lit." Mia took his hand. "We did good," she said. "We did ours," he said. "It's everyone now." A jogger ran past, music faint in one earbud. It was an old song about holding on, the kind that makes you accidentally believe in choruses again. Mia lifted their joined hands and spun once. "Easy. It's giving. Forever," she said, her grin too big for her face. "It is," he said. They walked home slow. The light stayed on. The dragon kept watch. The dance did what good dances do. It didn't end. It just moved into the next room. The first snow of winter in Riverton came too early that year, but nobody minded. Main Street looked like a postcard that had swallowed too much glitter. Storefronts blinked with fairy lights. Beacon Diner swapped its pie-of-a-day sign for hot chocolate specials, and the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and wet mittens. Logan, who once measured seasons in quarterly reports, now measured them in Mia's outfits. This morning, it was a neon pink beanie and a scarf, so long it trailed like a comet tail. At the door, Mia looked up. "Dad, can I TikTok you?" "Is that legal?" he asked. "No, but it's necessary," she said gravely. She filmed him holding a snow shovel, captioned it, "When your billionaire dad doesn't outsource winter?" The comments later would say, "He's giving Midwest uncle energy." Logan didn't understand the slang, but Mia assured him it was a compliment. That week, whispers rose again, not about dances, but about money. Some Riverton parents were nervous about how much of Logan's foundation was pouring into side projects like the community garden, mentorship dinners, and book drives. At the school board meeting, Mrs. Calloway, a PTA legend who wore pearls to Zumba, stood and cleared her throat. "Mr. Hart, nobody doubts your intentions, but are we turning our town into a charity experiment? Our classrooms are overcrowded. Teachers are tired. Is this sustainable or just trendy?" the room murmured. Logan stood slowly, brushing snowflakes off his coat. He didn't bring spreadsheets this time, though he had them. Instead, he said, "You're right to ask. Kids deserve more than donations tied to headlines. That's why I created an education endowment funds that last. Teacher salaries, library renovations, after-school programs, not flash routes. Some parents leaned back, unconvinced.
Oh.
Some leaned forward. And one teacher, Ms. Rivera, said into the mic, I just want to point out. Duh. The man showed up to help me staple 400 construction paper turkeys. He's in this. Respectfully. The room cracked into laughter, and the tension melted like frost. 2 nights later, a fire ripped through Monroe Elementary's old library wing. Faulty wiring, the investigators said. Flames chewed up books, cracked windows, left behind the smell of smoke that clung to Riverton for weeks. Mia clutched Logan's hand the next morning as they stood outside the ruins. Did we lose everything? Not everything, Logan said, crouching beside her. We'll rebuild together. And they did. He called donors. Amber baked cookies for the firefighters. Kids dragged wagons of picture books from their houses, handing them to each other like sacred cargo. Within 2 weeks, the school had more books than it had before the fire. Someone taped a sign above the new shelves, From Ashes to Awesome. The story made the local paper. The photo was EAA holding a scorched dragon plushie that survived the flames. She looked fierce like a general of hope. The headline read, She saved the dragons. Mia told Logan, Okay, but that's literally my villain origin story. No, Bug, Logan said, ruffling her hair. That's your superhero origin story. The adoption papers were filed the same month. At the courthouse, Judge Santos smiled at Mia. Do you want Mr. Hart to be your legal father? Mia grinned so wide the gallery cried. I thought he already was. The gavel struck. History shifted. Outside, balloons and cupcakes appeared from nowhere, probably Ms. Dalton's doing. A hand-painted sign read, Welcome home, Mia Gray's Hart. But the bigger storm was still coming. National news picked up the story again. Cable pundits with perfect hair argued about Logan Hart. Rebranding billionaire or reborn dad. Some mocked him. Others praised him. One late-night host joked, He's basically Batman. But instead of fighting crime, he just shows up for parent-teacher night. The Hart Initiative Board in Chicago sent another terse email. Step back. Protect the reputation. Stop giving the internet free content. Logan deleted the email. He was done choosing reputation over reality. The first father for a night gala arrived in spring. Not a gala with champagne towers and tuxedos, but a gym decked with string lights, mismatched chairs, and kids holding clipboards as event staff. Mia served as the official MC. She wore a sparkly blazer over her dress and carried a microphone like Destiny. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and dragons of all ages, she declared. The room roared. Volunteers paired with kids who didn't have a dad that night. Tunkles, grandpas, teachers, neighbors, even the mailman who brought cookies in his bag. The gym turned into a swirl of awkward steps and unstoppable joy. During the slow song, Logan danced with Mia. She leaned close. Dad, I think this is bigger than us. It's always been bigger, he whispered back. And then because life likes drama, voice cut through the music. Mr. Hart, said a tall man in a sharp gray suit. Reporters tilted cameras toward him. You're making Riverton dependent on your charity. What happens when you leave? The gym hushed. Logan held Mia's hand tighter. I'm not leaving, he said calmly. I sold the penthouse. This is home. If you think I'm here for PR, stick around long enough to get bored. I'll still be here in the garden, in the library, in the back row of school plays. I'm not an experiment. I'm a dad. The crowd erupted. Cameras clicked. A hashtag trended that night. Hashtag keep the window lit. Mia, watching her dad feel the storm, whispered into her mic, and that's on period. The room laughed. Tension shattered. The gala ended not with suspicion, but with confetti cannons that misfired sideways. Thank you, was the dad. And a spontaneous conga line led by Principal Ward herself. The first thunderclap didn't come from the sky. It came from a podcast. Welcome back to Money Talks, People Walk, announced a voice that sounded like a blazer. Today, Logan Hart. Hero. Hoax. Or just a man who learned how to cry in public. The co-hosts laughed like a clink of ice cubes. My favorite genre. Clips rolled Logan, twirling Mia at the dance. carrying boxes into the rebuilt library, wiping sweat on his sleeve at the community garden. Then a cut to a man in a red tie. "This is philanthropy creep," he warned. "A private citizen shouldn't have this much influence over public life, sir," the co-host said. "Have you met, history?" The episode shot up the charts. It's crystallizing a storm that had been gathering ever since a cardboard sign asked the world to be better. In the diner, Beacon's regulars played it out loud and argued lovingly. In the parking lot, teens rolled their eyes and choreographed a TikTok to the theme music, captioned, "Philanthropy creep, but make it community." In the office of Principal Ward, the volume stayed mercifully low. Ward had other work to do, like a draft policy called "We Choose Kids," that she intended to sneak into every meeting until it felt inevitable. Logan listened to 10 minutes, then hit pause and looked at his life, the paper snowflakes still taped to the community center. Windows, the stack of mentor applications on his desk, the dragon mural Mia had touched up with a new sparkle. He opened his calendar, scrolled past the blank spaces where board meetings used to live, and tapped the next thing. Garden work day. He put his phone down. The storm could talk to itself for a while. "Dad," Mia called from the living room. "You got invited to a panel on performative masculinity." He leaned in the doorway. "Is there a non-performative way to sit on a folding chair for an hour? They pay in scones." "I'm listening." She grinned, then sobered. "People are noisy?" "They are." He ruffled her hair. "We'll be louder in the ways that matter, bet," she said. The words slotted snugly into her mouth like a promise. A tech billionaire, with a smile like a patent application, slid into Riverton, with a convoy of electric SUVs and a PR firm that wore sneakers to signal humility. His name was Pierce Dalton, the kind of name that made the word Pierce less about sharp things and more about a yacht. He'd heard of the Anna Grace Project. He'd seen the mural, watched the dance. He wanted to scale. "We'll franchise it," he said, to Logan and Ward over coffee that tasted like it had read philosophy. "Father for a night, Los Angeles, Dallas, Miami. We'll slap a brand guide on it, hire a celebrity ambassador, run a Super Bowl spot that'll melt faces." Ward blinked. "We're a school," she said evenly. "Our faces must remain unmelted." Pierce laughed as if she'd told a networking joke. "We'll keep the heart," he said. "We'll just add a skeleton." Logan listened, hands flat on the table, as the pitch grew glossy naming rights. KPI dashboards, a traveling gala experience, complete with drone footage of confetti. He pictured a dozen gyms strung with lights and kids who deserved better than a marketing deck. Pictured Mia holding a new kid's hand, saying, "We learn the steps together." "What happens," Logan asked, "when the trend cools and the algorithm moves on? Who cleans the glitter out of the corners and still shows up next Tuesday?" Pierce smiled like a salesman who'd practiced empathy in the mirror. "With our funding," he said, "there is no Tuesday problem." "There's always a Tuesday problem," Ward said. "It's called Tuesday." Pierce slid a folder across the table. Inside, a number so large it looked like a typo plus a term sheet that made Logan's stomach tilt control clauses, media approvals, a veto right that would let Pierce cut programs that do not align with brand values. "What are your brand values?" Ward asked. Pierce didn't blink. Logan closed the folder. "Pass? You don't even want to discuss? We just did." He pushed the folder back. "No." Pierce stood, shrugged into his beautiful jacket, and delivered the line that would appear in 3 articles by nightfall. "Philanthropy without growth is sentiment." Ward watched him go, and then leaned back, exhaling a laugh that held zero humor. "I don't like to judge on first impressions," she said, "but that man is an LLC wearing a skin suit." Logan snorted. "It's unkind. It's accurate." They bumped fists like teenagers. That night, a source close to Dalton Ventures told a reporter that Logan Hart had declined an opportunity to positively impact millions of kids due to personal ego. The comments did what comments do. Logan kept his phone face down and finished repairing a wobbly table in the library instead. When people ask you what you do in a storm, it helps to be able to say, "I chose a screwdriver." April offered the town a chance to be ridiculous. The annual Riverton Riverfest, a tradition that predated hashtags and involved canoe races. Piting contests a dog costume pageant and a community float parade that ranged from professionally charming to my cousin brought a staple gun. The Anna Grace Project's float was a repurposed flatbed truck wrapped in butcher paper, painted like a giant book. On one side, the words "Keep the window lit." On the other, a dragon blowing not fire, but confetti, because Mia insisted, "It's giving." "Inclusive dragon," she said. Amber manned the lemonade stand with Ms. Rivera, who had a laugh that made other laughs want to join in. Ward directed children from the curb like a benevolent general. Wes, the dad, wore a sash that said Grand Marshal, because the actual Grand Marshal got the flu, and Wes had owned a suit. Energy. G. Logan, in jeans and a white shirt, adjusted zip ties and tried to look like a person who had always known what a zip tie is for. A local news anchor in a windbreaker shouted questions over the brass band warming up. "Mr. Hart, are you planning to take the Anna Grace Project national?" "We're planning to clean glitter out of a gym tomorrow," Logan said. "That's the same thing if you squint." The anchor blinked, then laughed, like maybe she'd use that line. Mia ran up, tiara askew, clipboard against her chest like she was keeping state secrets. "Dad, 2 emergencies," she said. "Hit me." 1. Elliot lost the duct tape. Tragic. 2. I need you to say hi to Mrs. Calloway's dog. But in a way that shows you're not being fake. I can do authentic dog. He crouched. "Hey, Sir Barkslet," he said solemnly to the tiny fluff ball in a sweater vest. The dog licked his nose. Mrs. Calloway, pearls and all, caved into a grin. "Fine," she said. "I was wrong about you." "Join the club," Logan said. The parade stepped off. The band played something that sounded like a Sousa march met a tick-tock beat behind the bleachers. Children waved. People cried for no tidy reason. When the Anna Grace float rolled by, a ripple of applause moved down Main Street. Mia waved like a queen who would also help you carry in groceries. A little boy with a cupcake yelled, "Dragoon," and threw confetti into the air with the confidence of a baseball pitcher. It blew into Ward's hair. She left it there. Halfway down the route, the float's right wheel hit a pothole the size of a small scandal. The book facade shuddered and drooped. "Duct tape," Elliot cried, appearing with it in triumph. He and Mia scrambled like mission control, taping, bracing, narrating their own heroics. "We're engineers now," Mia declared.
At?
"STEM queens," Elliot yelled. "And king, I can be a STEM king." "You can be anything," Ward yelled back from the curb, cupping her hands, especially hydrated. They fixed the sagging corner. The crowd cheered like you cheer for competence. Logan caught Amber's eye. She tipped her chin in a way that said, "Look at our child." The thought hit him so thoroughly he had to bite his lip to keep it from spilling out of his eyes. "We did ours," he murmured. "We did," she said, and took his hand, the kind of casual, certain gesture that happens only when a house has decided it is a home. The knock came a week later late afternoon. Ordinary light through the kitchen window. Amber glanced at Logan. Logan glanced at Mia. Kids know door knocks carry weather. Mia paused in her homework, pencil lifted like a periscope. On the porch stood a woman in a jean jacket, early 30s, nervous hands that had practiced this visit in the car. She had Mia's dark eyes. She had a weariness like luggage. "Hi," she said. "I'm Jessa." Amber's hand went to the pendant at her throat, the little heart that said, "Keep going. Can we help you?" Jessa swallowed, I think. I might be Mia's aunt. Silence worked fast and clumsy through the room. "We should talk inside," Amber said softly, moving aside. Logan stepped back, scanning Jessa's face like a map you aren't. "To sure you have a right to read." They sat at the table where 1,000 decisions had been made, pancakes and permission slips, and the first adoption papers laid flat like a promise. Jessa told an old story, badly kept. A brother who vanished when Mia was a baby. Addiction County lines. Regret that tasted like pennies. "I didn't come to take anything," Jessa said quickly, palms up. "I came to, I don't know, apologize, offer family. If you want it, if she wants it." I saw a picture in the paper. I recognized her eyes. Amber and Logan looked at each other. They had learned a language that had no words and spoke it now, in blinks, in small shifts of breath. "Do you have proof?" Logan asked gently. Jessa nodded, pulled a folded birth certificate from a plastic sleeve. Names, dates, a father's signature line blank. a familiar ache. "We can get a DNA test," Jessa said. "I'll pay." "I don't have much, but I'll pay." "You won't," Amber said. "If we do this, we do it together." Mia stood in the doorway, dragon plush clutched like a talisman. She had listened, because children always hear the thing you hope they won't. "Are you my real aunt?" she asked. Jess's breath caught. "I'm your messy aunt," she said. "I hope I can be your real one." Mia looked at Logan and Amber, then back at Jessa. "We keep the window lit," she said, serious as a judge, "so you can come in if it's safe." Jessa nodded, eyes wet. "I want to be safe." Logan exhaled a prayer he didn't know he had in him. They swabbed cheeks at the clinic the next day and waited in the weird silence that follows a question you can't answer yet. In the meantime, Jessa showed up like a person who meant it brought a casserole. That was 70% noodles and 30%. Hope sat in the back row at story time, cried at a third-grade recorder concert in a way that made Mia beam. The results arrived. Probability of full sibling relationship between Jessa and Mia's father, 99.3%. They were family. The word swung the room's gravity. "What does this change?" Mia asked that night. Small under her blanket, big everywhere else. "Maybe nothing," Logan said. "Maybe everything, but not the everything that matters." "What matters?" she asked, testing him. "That you re-ours and we re-yours, and our door opens and closes on purpose," Casey said, and closed her eyes like someone who trusted the roof. Dalton Ventures announced a National Father-S Night pilot with glossy videos and drone shots of gymnasiums in 3 cities. Celebrities smiled. The logo looked like an airline, a tagline. Because kids deserve a brand they can trust. Ward threw a stress ball across her office and hit a framed certificate she didn't care about. "What if he does good anyway?" Ms. Rivera asked gently, picking up the stress ball. "What if a little good comes wrapped in a weird brand? Then I will cheer for the good," Ward said, and still despise the wrapping. The internet, thrilled to be deputized, found the paperwork, a brand ambassadorship contract that required volunteers to sign, NDAs, and granted Dalton Ventures the right to use kids' images in perpetuity. A teacher in Dallas leaked it. The hashtag turned hashtag let kids be kids. TV panels sprouted like mushrooms after rain. One invited Logan. He said no. He made peace with the fact that sometimes the most radical act is to stay home and make grilled cheese. Dalton called. "Sabotaged us," he snapped. "I didn't leak anything," Logan said. "I just said no." Dalton's voice iced. "Enjoy your quaint little town. We're playing in the majors." "We're playing on Tuesday," Logan said, and hung up before he could make it worse. In June, the Anna Grace Project hosted a job fair in the community center. Local contractors. The hospital, a tech repair shop, a bakery that paid well on purpose. There were workshops on resume writing and how to talk to a boss without making your soul leave your body. The compliment station handed out sticky notes that said, "You are catastrophically employable." A kid named Theo, 14, wandered in by accident and left with an apprenticeship fixing HVAC units. "Infrastructure is love," he told his friends, deadpan. They laughed and then started repeating it until it turned into a meme in the middle school group chat. Someone drew a heart around a thermostat and left it on Ward's door. She taped it up like art. Amber organized a moms who fix stuff night at the library, repairing torn backpacks, patching jeans, teaching basic stitching. "We do not throw away children or pants in this town," she said, stabbing a needle through denim like a gentle avenger. "I guess I came and learned to hem." She cried quietly while Amber showed her how to tie off a knot. Later she texted, "Thank you for letting me love her without breaking your love," Amber replied. "We're building a bigger room." Wes started Dads Who Burn Meat in the parking lot out back. It was less educational, more cathartic. Logan grilled veggie kebabs like a man who had read 3 blog posts about seasoning. Mia judged the results with a laminated scorecard. Taste, vibes, would eat again. She gave Logan an 8/10 on vibes. "I'll take it," he said, happily offended. A blistering July afternoon pressed the town flat. The community center's a sea-dyed mid-mentorship session. 30 kids, 30 mentors, 1 room, and a heat index that made bees reconsider. Mr. Manny hustled to the basement to coax the ancient unit back to life. Logan opened windows and set up box fans while Ward fetched popsicles like a triage nurse. In the heat fuzzy corner, a mentor raised his voice at a boy sharp. fast, the kind of tone that rebounds off childhood. The boy flinched and bolted for the door. Logan moved without thinking, catching up on the sidewalk. "Hey," he said gently. "Hey, I'm sorry." "You didn't yell," the boy muttered. "I'm sorry on behalf of adults," Logan said. "It's a package deal." They stood in the thin shade of a maple. Logan kept his hands obvious at his sides, his body giving the boy more space than the air did. "Do you want water?" he asked. "Or silence?" "Both," the boy said. They did both for a while. Then the boy said, "I hate being a lesson." "Same," Logan said. "It's exhausting." Back inside, Ward spoke with the mentor calm firm. Boundary setting that made a different kind of weather in the room. The mentor apologized to the boy properly and took a break from the program to train, not as punishment, as care. "We're building a thing that doesn't eat people," Ward told her staff later. "That includes our volunteers." Mr. Manny resurrected the AC with a curse and a prayer. When the air cooled, the room exhaled. A crisis had passed, but the lesson stayed. Showing up isn't a costume, it's a practice. That night, Logan sat on the porch with Amber and watched lightning bugs like tiny Morse code. "We almost lost something," he said. "We didn't," Amber replied. "Because you caught it." "Because we all did." He nodded, then smiled at a sound he'd learned to love, the scratch of Mia's pencil as she wrote by the front window, light pooling around her like a small stage. "What are you writing?" he called. "A new chapter," she said. "It's called The Day the Air Forgot How to Work. It's a comedy, thank God," he said. In August, the National Father's Night brand announced a pause to reevaluate our Family First image strategy, which is PR for We Got Caught. The internet shrugged and moved on to a cat that played the piano like Debussy. Dalton's convoy of SUVs sped past Riverton without stopping. On a Friday evening warm enough to feel like a blessing, Riverton gathered for an outdoor movie night in Larkspur Green. A sheet hung between two maples. Kids sprawled on blankets. The kettlecorn guy worked like a magician. Ward wore a t-shirt that said "Red like you mean IT." Just before the movie started, a man hovered at the edge of the crowd. 40. Tired, carrying a backpack that had seen too many nights. Jessa saw him first. She went very still. "Logan," she said quietly, "that's my brother." Amber reached for Mia's hand. Logan stood. The man's eyes were a mirror that had forgotten its job. He took one step closer, then another. Jessa met him halfway. She didn't hug him. She touched his arm like it might vanish. "You can't just show up to take a bow," she said. "You have to show up to stay." He nodded like the word "stay" hurt and healed. "I heard." "She was okay," he said, voice frayed. "She is," Jessa said. "Not because of you. But you can be part of the okay, if you can be safe." He glanced past her to Mia, who stood between Amber and Logan, spine straight. Chin lifted like a little queen who had already written her own constitution. "I don't want to mess up her life," he said, hollow. "Then don't," Logan said. "Do the next right thing, then the next one. If you can't, we'll close the door. Not because we hate you, because she deserves a door that works." The man nodded again, swallowed hard, and sat at the edge of the crowd. He didn't come closer. He watched the movie with the faraway focus of someone who hadn't sat still under a sky in years. He left before the credits. He left a note with Jessa. "I'll get clean. If I can't, I won't come again. I won't take the light." Amber folded the note without reading it and pressed it back into Jessa's palm. "We believe in the bigger room," she said. "We also believe in locks." Jessa cried like it was allowed. Logan stood with his hand on Mia's shoulder. The sheet flapped in the breeze. The movie flickered on. The town breathed like a chorus. September brought the first day of fourth grade new sneakers. A backpack charm shaped like a dragon guitar, don't ask. And hair braided by a dad who had gotten legitimately good at it. "Dad," Mia said as he tied off the last ribbon. "It's giving. Competence. You flatter me." She grinned and tucked her hand into his as they walked up Monroe steps. Parents waved. Kids yelled each other's names. The world smelled like pencil shavings and possibility. Ward stood at the door, fist-bumping students with the precision of a surgeon. "Welcome back," she said, and meant it for all of them. After drop-off, Logan and Amber crossed town to the new Anna Grace Project building, a former auto parts store turned community center with a mural of kids dancing under a dragon-esque curved wing. Inside, a circle of chairs waited. Teachers, mentors, parents. The morning's agenda, written on a whiteboard. Mentor Training 2.0, Endowment Report, Library Story Hour Expansion. Tuesday Problems. Logan opened the meeting with the line he'd been practicing, not because it sounded good, but because it was true. 10 chapters ago, a little girl held up a sign, he said. We keep telling people to ask for help. She did. She shouldn't have had to, but she did. We don't get to fix every system. We do get to be the ones who show up when there are no cameras. Our reputation is Tuesday. He looked at Amber, at Ward, at Ms. Rivera, at Wes, at Mr. Manny, at Jessa, sitting in the back with a notebook, at Theo, in a work shirt, with his name stitched on the pocket, at Mia's drawing taped to the wall, a dragon holding a flashlight in its claws. We are, he finished, catastrophically employable at hope, laughter, then work. Real work. Boring and holy. That afternoon, as he packed away the folding chairs and wiped down a table sticky with lemonade fingerprints, Logan found a note under the dragon mural, crumpled, uncertain handwriting. Dear Mr. Logan, I don't have a dad. I have my mom and my aunt and my cousin and my cat. I want to go to the dance, but I didn't want people to think I'm weird. Can you help me find someone who won't make me feel weirder? Also, I like math, and I hate lima beans. From K. He smiled and put the note in his pocket like a small, dangerous jewel. Another Tuesday, he told Amber as she locked up. The best kind, she said. They walked home beneath a sky that had remembered how to be gentle. At the corner, the kettle corn guy waved. Across the street, Ward argued with a traffic cone. You're not a person, but you are in my way, and moved it. On their porch, Mia held up a book. Read? She asked. Always, Logan said, and sat. He began. Once there was a dragon who learned that fire is for warmth. They read until the light thinned in the lamp. Clicked on, and the house made the settling noises of a place that believed in dawn. Later, at the sink, Logan washed a plate and thought, there are thrills and there are vows. Give me the vows. Outside, somewhere in the night, a father who might someday deserve the word sat in a meeting and tried not to leave. In a hospital, a nurse clocked out late and went home to a kid who would make her forget the bad parts. In 1,000 kitchens, 1,000 people chose to keep a window lit. And in Riverton, on a street that had learned to tell better stories, a father and a daughter danced in a living room to music only they could hear. Autumn swept Riverton with the painter's hand on believes, pumpkin lanterns, sweaters that smelled like cinnamon. Logan stood on the porch one morning, coffee steaming in his hands, and thought, a year ago, I didn't know this street existed. Behind him, the house hummed with life. Mia argued with her braids in the bathroom mirror. Amber hummed a Motown tune as she packed lunches. Jessa stirred oatmeal like it was a destiny. Even the old screen door had started squeaking less, as if it too had decided to belong. The knock came again, not chaos this time, not surprise. Steady, like a man rehearsing politeness. Mia's biological father, Evan, stood straighter now. Weeks in rehab had given him edges of hope. His eyes, once mirrors cracked, looked steadier, though they still carried storms. Can I say good morning? He asked softly. Logan stepped aside. You can. Inside, Mia froze, spoon midair. Then she set it down carefully. Hi, she said. Not anger, not joy. Just a word that carried the weight of too many missing years. Hi, Bug, Evan whispered. You don't have to call me Dad. You don't have to call me anything. I just wanted you to see I'm trying. Silence. Then Mia reached for the dragon bracelet on her wrist, the one she'd once given Logan. She tapped it twice. To keep the window lit, she said. Evan's face broke, gratitude raw. Thank you. He didn't stay long. That became the rhythm. Short visits, boundaries set by Amber, safety nets woven by Logan. Evan was not a miracle, but he was trying, and sometimes trying is its own prayer. At the next community board meeting, Logan stood with Amber and Mia beside him. We've been calling it the Anna Grace Project, he said. But Mia has a better idea. Mia stepped up to the mic, adjusting it to her height. We're naming it Keep the Window Lit, she declared. because every kid should know somebody's waiting for them, no matter what. The room roared, applause, laughter, a couple tears wiped without shame. Principal Ward muttered, "I should have trademarked that line," but smiled the whole time. The rebrand wasn't glossy. No logos on Super Bowl ads, just murals painted by kids, volunteers and t-shirts that said Tuesdays Matter, and a website with too many typos until Mia proofread it herself. And somehow it spread not Dalton's way. Not viral, but slow and sticky like honey. Small towns called churches, schools, a reservation in New Mexico, a neighborhood in Detroit. Not franchises, just borrowed light. The next father-daughter dance came on a February night cold enough to make breath visible. The gym shimmered with lanterns, silver ribbons, and glitter that would haunt the janitors until graduation. Logan adjusted his tie. Mia had picked neon green this year. Because it slaps. She wore a gown that twinkled like she'd swallowed stars, sneakers underneath because she refused to suffer for beauty. When the music slowed, Logan knelt, offered his hand. "You may," she said with a grin. They moved not perfectly, not gracefully, but together. Around them, fathers and daughters spun. Some clumsy, some confident. Some volunteers stepping in for kids who would have stood alone. No whispers this time, no suspicion, just belonging. Halfway through, Mia leaned her head on his chest. "Dad, yes, sweetheart, thanks for showing up." He swallowed the lump in his throat. Always. The song ended. The applause rose, and Logan knew. This wasn't redemption. It wasn't reinvention. It was simply a man finally standing where he was supposed to, holding the hand of the girl who taught him how. Spring again. The community garden bloomed basil, tomatoes, stubborn carrots. Kids painted signs, nitrogen monoxide picking without asking, and dragons guard these beans. At the Saturday farmers market, Logan carried a crate of cucumbers, while Amber teased him about finally having calluses. Jessa sold jars of jam, proud as a vendor at a World's Fair. Evan handed out programs for the recovery group that met in the church basement, his steps small but real. Mia skipped between them all, clipboard in hand. "Dad, we need more volunteers for story hour. Mama, you promised to bring cookies. Aunt Jessa, your jam label is crooked. Uncle Evan, don't forget my recital Tuesday." She paused, hands on hips, surveying her family, mismatched, miraculous. "Okay," she said, "this is good." And it was. It's not perfect, not polished, but steady. Alive. That night, as the house quieted, Logan tucked me in. She pressed her dragon plush into his hands. "Keep him safe," she murmured. "I will," he promised. He kissed her forehead, whispered goodnight, and stepped into the hallway where Amber waited, arms crossed but smiling. He slipped an arm around her waist. Together, they listened the creak of old floors, the hum of the fridge, the sigh of a child who finally slept safe. Inside, the window stayed lit, and for once, Logan didn't think about what he'd lost, only about the dance that would never end.